I'm doing great also. Thanks for asking. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game Nation show. Today I'm here with...
Hello, it's Sam.
Today we're going to be discussing the most recent episodes of the Dragon Ball Super anime. We're going to touch on aspects of the TCG and weigh in on with our opinions on what we think is happening in the current meta. So let's just start things off with seeing how Sam's doing. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Just got off work. Literally 30 minutes I've been off work. So it's nice to talk about Super for a little bit. And I'm excited.
Cool. I'm doing great also. Thanks for asking. So here's your one and only spoiler warning. We will be talking about all Dragon Ball Super up to episode 130, which was last week's episode. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead and find a legal variant of the episode 130 and jump back in.
Good Game Nation does not endorse copyrights.
Yeah, it does not endorse illegal streaming of Dragon Ball Super.
But seriously, go watch it.
Yeah, go watch it. It was great. So in episode 130, we see UI Goku in his master form. And he's fighting... We don't have a direct name for what Jiren's doing at this point. I guess we can call it Full Power Jiren until we get a cool fancy name for it. What do you think of their fight so far?
Full Power Jiren sounds pretty fancy.
Sounds fancy
Yeah,
enough?
Full Power... There was a Full Power Frieza, so it's right up the alley, right? Yeah, the fight was really, really good. There was... It was back and forth. It was classic Dragon Ball Z. Little flashbacks to those classic fights. There was a still of Goku charging in, and his eyes were just brilliant. So there was a lot of good moments in that fight. I enjoyed it very much. It went basically the entire episode, which is kind of what we're expecting since there's only one more episode left after this one.
It's kind of disappointing too, because we have such this build up at this point. They have to finish the tournament, and there's still 4 people in the ring.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing almost, where I feel like this could go on 2 more months maybe, but they've put the time limit on, and we've been we're on 1 minute for 2 episodes now, I feel like. So
yeah, since he went UI, I think as soon as Vegeta got knocked, it hit 1 minute, and Goku got beat down for a while before he went UI, and then he went Master UI, and we're still within that last minute. So just if you think about it, how much action's happening, that's still only about 30 seconds of time for them, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Also, it's anime magic, but it's also incredible that much is happening.
Yeah, if 30 seconds is gone, I mean, this last episode has to finish probably within the first half of the episode, so right before like that midway point, it has to be over, and there has to be the last 10 minutes for the wish, and my boy Frieza is going to get that wish.
You think Frieza's coming out on top?
I said that in January. I'm sticking with it. Frieza's going to win this tournament. I was not expecting to see 17 in that episode. I feel like that turned off that whole really dramatic, all the emotion they put in that episode, and I lost it all when I saw 17 come back. And
it was such a touching moment with his last episode, and we're like, that was such a great impact. He did something that we didn't expect. He was talking about this, like, how exciting it is to be to do this human type thing, and all of that just ripped away from us, in my opinion. It's just gone as soon as he's like, well, there was a 50-50 chance that I wasn't gonna die.
Yeah, that was a really bad line. I'm gonna go with that as well.
So disappointed to see him. If it was just Frieza, I would be like, great, it's going kind of down a direction that we expected. I don't think 17 needs to be there.
No, and there's no way he's going to be the one with the vote, like the wish at the end, so there definitely was no reason. Like, if 17 wins the wish, that's just a really bad plot line. I still think Frieza makes the most sense to me, just story-wise. A nearsighted villain wins the power enough to probably be God of Destruction. That's probably what I said, and I'm still sticking with that. Frieza being God of Destruction makes the most sense going forward for me.
Yeah.
And that'll be an awesome plotline for the movie coming out in December.
Yeah, I've actually seen articles where they're just mentioning stuff and saying that the villain for the next thing has been saved for the movie. Like, they've had him in mind for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know if it's just going to be another Frieza, like, God Frieza or something, or if it's going to be something new, but with that being said, the anime is not canceled. A lot of us were thinking that 131 was going to be the last episode, so it's really exciting to see that it got renewed for another season.
I think a lot of us weren't expecting it to go away. It makes sense for it to take a hiatus. There was no breaks from the beginning to end. To my knowledge, there wasn't a break. I believe I watched it all up to date, and there was no breaks. They went 130 basically straight with maybe 2-3 filler episodes, and then these like maybe 4 breaks, maybe a month of break total time. So it makes sense for them to take this hiatus, take their time, work the storyline out. I have no problem with this. I'm pretty sure most Dragon Ball fans are totally okay with this break. So I'm excited for at least after December to see when we get a start time for the new episodes. I'm excited for the movie, so that'll totally hold me over for at least a month.
Yeah, episodes 128, 129, and 130 are some of the best animation I've seen for them. Like, the fight scenes are amazing, and I hope they keep pushing that further and just making it more and more beautiful to watch and more entertaining.
I definitely agree. It's either episode 2 or 3 when Goku goes Super Saiyan 3 versus Beerus, and I'm gonna call it the Room version of animation where it's absolutely awful, and it's amazing to watch. It's just horrible animation, and then to compare this episode to what we've seen in 130, it's miles ahead, and the transformation that they've made is amazing, and I feel like we're growing with them at this point, and we're just engulfed. I'm just loving the nostalgia.
Yeah, it's been great. So you think Frieza's our victor?
Oh, it makes no sense. Like, what Goku's gonna wish for them all come back. I don't want that. I don't think anybody wants that. That just gets rid of all the emotion. It's gonna lose so much. I don't want that. Android 17 doesn't make sense. Obviously, Jiren can't win because then there's no more Dragon Ball. So Frieza makes the most sense, especially after you said they've had the villain in mind. So it feels like that means that the villain's already in play. So Frieza just makes the most sense, and to me he's still the best Dragon Ball villain. So I'm excited to see him in I'm assuming God of Destruction form. That seems like his kind of mentality, where he's nearsighted. He was originally going to wish for immortality. I think he realizes that's not going to do anything for him because he's just going to get his brains beat out by Goku every time. So he's going to wish for more power. So God of Destruction seems like a good guess. Don't think he can wish for much above that. So I'm just curious what happens to Beerus if that actually happens. I think he just goes away. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, and because God of Destructions have to rule. Well, so far we've seen them ruling over an entire universe. So if he doesn't have a universe, what happens to?
I don't know.
Seven's universe.
A lot of mystery around like the dynamics there. So I'm excited. Beerus might just become a regular character, which is super cool to me. But that means Whis is going to be with Frieza a lot, so that just seems like another great pairing of characters. I'm excited. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's been my guess since the tournament started, so I'm writing that out.
With that being said, what do you think happened to Goku at the end? The gods kind of mentioned something when it happened, like, or Whis, I think it might have been Whis said, like, oh, the drawback, I didn't expect it to be this bad. But we haven't heard anything about it, so I hope they say something briefly, like, oh, there's a drawback to going UI. Like, you have to pay the price for such power. Which kind of makes me feel like it's not a masterable trait for him, for at least humans and, like, mortals.
That's probably what it is. It's probably not a masterable trait for humans. It's kind of like when you Porta. When you Porta with humans, it's only an hour, but if you Porta with gods, it's permanent. So it's probably one of those things that's not, like you said, masterable. So where there's a time limit. He said it was like some kind of backlash. So I originally didn't know if this was attached to UI or SS Blue. It definitely isn't SS Blue because Vegeta's been doing it and they've been doing it. So it's not that. It has to be attached to UI. And this makes UI a god trait, which I wasn't sure if that was a god trait because he's done it 2 times before and there wasn't really any backlash besides the time it was allowed. So I don't understand it completely. They probably won't have time to really dive into it in the next episode because there's no time left. So I kind of don't want them to go into it. I really just want them to focus on the remaining time. But I am curious. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are curious of what actually happened.
Yeah, because he was about to, in our minds, win the tournament. Right. And then it's just like really dramatic pop to a wide and explosion coming out of him. And I expected it just to be Frieza trolling and like, I'm going to win the tournament and knock both of you out. And now and then it kind of was just...
I was wondering that too. Because there's... The stills they used, it animated a lot of outbursts of something from his back. So I'm like, oh damn, Frieza just killed everybody. He just won. I'm so hyped right now. I called it. Booyah. But then it was the backlash. And then we saw him fight in the trailer to the next episode. So
yeah,
the drawback can't be that severe if he's actually ready to be back in action. Not even a minute after that backlash. So yeah. It seems very minuscule, so I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit of a plot hole at the moment with that. But
feels
who cares? I mean...
I'm enjoying it.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm enjoying myself.
I think that's all I have in mind for the anime. Any final thoughts, or should we move on to the...
Frieza gang, let's do this.
Alright, so the new set, Crossworlds, just came out. We've had a couple release tournaments so far, and what we've seen is... Mecha Frieza not only like rising to the top, but elevating even higher from its previous like status. And now we have not just one variant, we have a 3 variant S tier. I don't know. What do you think about this 3 deck S tier with the GT build, the vegan build, and the 8 build of Mecha Frieza?
Oh, well, the thing with Mecha Frieza, with him existing in the meta, it's never going to shift to it can't shift slow. There's not a lot of decks that with that mentality where all I have to do is exist to the late game and I win. GT either wins by turn 2 or 3 or loses. Vegan swarms the board and they usually win by turn 2 and turn 3 as well. And Apes, as soon as it gets past that, assuming they're playing in those 2 matchups, they have 2 blockers with the ability to untap them and barrier. So there's this meta that Mecha Frieza is just controlling because of all the new extra cards, and it'll only continue to get better with more extra cards. And Mecha Frieza is just going to continue to rule the meta. Obviously, there's going to be these Trunks-like counters. Trunks came up when Mecha rose the first time, and there's those couple leaders that take advantage of you killing yourself quickly. But if GT or Vegan or Apes draws absolutely amazing, they have no chance either. So
yeah, they're doing so much with 2 mana. They're playing 20 minutes on 2 mana.
Yep.
And then they pass or they play 20 minutes on 1 mana. They pass. If they're playing Apes, they're playing 20 minutes on 1 or 2 mana, and then passing for a game, turn 2 mana game. It's ridiculous.
I almost went into time on my turn 2 with playing GT versus GT. We almost went into time, so it's definitely weird meta. It's definitely weird meta. I don't know if everyone was expecting it, but I think people that had a little bit of foresight, seeing these new extra cards and knowing Mecha Frieza was capable of, I'm sure a lot of people expected this.
What do you think about Bandai's tweet that they did just before the release? I loved it personally.
Yeah, it's the source of all these get good memes coming out, right? Where it just gave you some deck lists to deal with the GT madness. Their estimates are probably wrong, right? These decks are definitely top tier. There's decks that come close, and I still believe the best pilot can win, but GT can win any given Sunday, right? Where you could draw it and you just win. And there's not a lot of counterplay right now, especially if you're on 1 mana. Like, what can you do? So it's either you have the super combos maybe to survive it and maybe some negates, but if you don't, you just lose.
Yeah. I love their reaction. It really did feel like Get Good Nerd. Like, if you can't beat it, it's not our fault for making this card. It's your fault for playing bad. That was my immediate reaction. Was like, well, we can beat it. Why can't you do it?
Yeah, it was definitely a little. I don't know what their goal of that tweet was, right? So they tweeted it and they gave you 2 deck options. I don't even remember what they were.
One was apes, but I can't.
But
remember.
it wasn't Mecha Frieza apes, right? That list would be so much better than Mecha Frieza apes, where you play March on turn 2. It's like, oh, this is way better than the junk you try to play me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's stoppable. I think what they're saying, it's definitely stoppable. But it's still, I think they have to acknowledge that it's definitely running the meta, at least.
Yeah. I like that they say it's on a watch list, but I don't know how much they could do without completely making it unusable at all. If they do it once per turn, why play the leader when... I mean, you get 1 free extra mana. If you make it, you still have to pay some type of cost, like the mandatory yellow cost. That still makes you have to play yellow in decks where you're mostly not playing yellow at all. You play Bloodlust or Crusher Ball or Bad Ring or Nimbus. Yeah. But you're not charging those cards. Those cards you want to use with the Mecha Frieza ability. So I don't know what they could do to make it still viable, like a good leader, but not be...
If they do it once per turn, it'll probably be similar to Pan, where you can still trigger it defensively, so you can hypothetically awaken still turn 2. So it'll still probably be good, but things like, well, the rising leaders when Mecha Frieza took the hill was Bardock, the Masked Saiyan, which is kind of the new Vegeta, and Pan. I see a lot of Trunks in Pan myself. It's a little more defensive because you play things like Topo, but these decks definitely rise with the Mecha Frieza up there. So when that falls, Turbo Ku is probably the deck that comes up. The new uncommon Goku.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lot of ways to affect the Mecha Frieza leader without utterly killing it. I think once per turn is probably the only solution that seems comparable. I think it'll still see play if it's once per turn, but I think people just kind of give up and probably switch to Ginyu at that point. That's just my opinion. I guess we'll see. We'll see what they do. They probably won't touch anything until after a large event, which I believe the next one is San Jose.
So we'll see how San Jose turns out, and if top 32 is 32 Mecha Friezas, they might make some. They might make some eroded. They might ban. I doubt there's no precedence for banning in this game yet.
They'll definitely have to touch it. I don't know if all top 32. Like I said, a good pilot can win. We'll probably see a couple Turbo Kus. We'll probably see a couple Bardocks or Pans, but I really doubt the majority is not. Yeah, I still see the majority still being Mecha Frieza, at least 16 decks.
How do you think this affects new players that are just getting into the game?
I mean, if you're getting killed turn 1, I feel like that's super encouraging, right? Like, I remember going to the locals and I had GT. I was trying it out because I was just curious. And I played a kid who only had set 1 and 2 stuff, and I didn't mean to, but I utterly destroyed him, and I felt so bad.
You didn't mean to OTK him with a deck that OTKs.
Yeah, but I was playing the deck. I was still learning the deck, so I was still trying to figure out things out for myself, and I felt so bad because I could see in his eyes like he had no chance. He just had no chance, and that's kind of where the meta is. It didn't happen in set 2, right, where Vegeta was still good when set 2 came out, and Starter Ku was still good. But with this set, a lot of the decks before are just gone. Mm-hmm. Like Starter Ku is still really slow. It's almost the original Starter Ku. You can still play Goku UI where you still rely on Mecha Frieza going off and then you countering with UI Goku, but a lot of the old decks are just gone. Yeah. I still see some androids playing the new stuff, but it's still not quick enough. So I could definitely see this being a problem for new players.
Yeah, it can be very discouraging to show up at a tournament where you're expecting to do... You might not be expecting to do well, but you're expecting to play...
Have fun, right?
To play more than one turn.
To be able to play the game. And I think Mecha Frieza cancels the ability to play the game right now in a fuller state.
Yeah.
The saying that is... I don't want to come off across just buy the new stuff, but I feel like if newer players did get their hands on set 3, decks like, not necessarily GT or Veggie, I think those require a little more foresight and a stronger pilot, but things like the apes I feel like they're very easy to play. So the apes, when they swing, they untap. They go back to active mode with the Planet Vegeta, and that was a lot of misplays from newer players where they would go too far in, and they realized after they got too far, and it's like, oops, I filled their hand, and now they're gonna kill me. The apes counteracts that, and they are able to untap, and that just cancels out the window of misplay. Yeah. So I think that deck specifically, new players can get their hands on and have success with, especially because the deck is pretty cheap right now. The most expensive card is like $20. So I think new players do have the opportunity to succeed. They just, unfortunately, they have to have their hands on new cards.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading when Set 2 was coming out that they geared certain leaders to a certain deck type for beginning players. I think they said Trunks was meant to be like a learner deck. I think it was Trunks. I could be wrong. But at the bottom of like one of their release pages for Set 2, it said, we're trying to build cards to make it easy for people to play. And Apes might be able to do that this set. I don't know very much. Like, we saw one Trunks, but it was a very competitive Trunks. I don't know if any beginner players were playing, like, super combo, like, multiple combo Trunks, like the one that did well.
Talking about the Allen one? The one that top 32?
Yeah, the one that did really well. I don't think that's the deck they intended, but it's nice to... When I saw that, I thought it was nice that they're at least putting the thought into, like, we're going to have really competitive players. But the people that are just playing for fun or the people that are just getting into the game still need an archetype to learn. Because if you're playing Trunks, you're learning about comboing because that's his purpose. Sure. You're learning about autos because his auto activates often. You're getting a feeling for the game before you get into this point where you're thinking 2 turns ahead. You're thinking 3 draws ahead. You're thinking before you get your tutor what you're going to be grabbing. So it could be a good form for them to make leaders that are good, but they're better for beginner players just to get the game knowledge that they can't get until they play the game more often. With that mindset
in play, I think they should stay away from Apes then, where Planet Vegeta allows you to play without having these repercussions that every other deck has to understand. Where if you go too far in, there is a good chance that you were going to lose next turn. Where if you go too far, there's no point in coming back. Yeah. Planet Vegeta cancels that out. So I feel like this deck enables players who were struggling before, I'm going to say, and it elevates them to you can win any game now because of Apes.
Yeah.
I think if you're a beginner player, it's unfortunate that Mecha Frieza exists, right? But you have to almost join it kind of thing, right? But there are decks that are coming up like Pan, the Bardock, that are strong into these decks that I think newer players would have a better understanding, especially if Mecha Frieza like we're expecting or something to happen to it. Yeah. It's not a guarantee still. So.
Yeah, Bardock's a good choice. I played against a young player at the release tournament. It was one of his first tournaments. He was playing Bardock, and the deck enables you to just read the text and go, I think. And there is some forethought to, like, you don't want to deck yourself out, but I feel like he had a good chance of winning, besides the fact that I'm bad, but he had a good chance of winning even though he was a beginner.
No, it's definitely true, right? Where you just read the text and you play the card. Yeah. There's not a lot of there's some foresight in that list, but it still comes down to what's in your hand. Yeah. Like if you can only overrun these certain cards, right? You have to play these certain cards, and I definitely think that deck takes a lot less foresight compared to things like Vegan or GT, where you have to see the entire turn right now, or you lose next turn.
Yeah, you have to take the cards in your hand and. Can I win this turn?
Yeah.
And if I can't win this turn, can I survive to win next turn?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the current meta?
It's unfortunate. I have some both side arguments where the last meta there was some mecha, it was the green blue, and then there was starter coup green blue, and then there was the Vegeta blue red. So when you saw Vegeta, you knew you were going to play against blue red or blue green. When you saw Starter Coup, you kind of knew exactly what you're going to see. You're going to see Gotenks, you're going to see KO. And when you saw Mecha Frieza, you're probably going to see the tricolor.
Yeah.
But we have this new meta where when you see Mecha Frieza, you don't necessarily know what list you're seeing. So it could be one of the three we've talked about. There could be... I've seen a bunch of different Mecha Frieza lists because of all the new cards. So there's kind of this mystery value. And then there's Bardock and Pan. So I still think there's a lot of diversity in the decks, just not necessarily in the leaders. And I think that's what people want to see. They want to be able to play the new Boo leader and feel like they're just not going to get taken advantage of by Mecha Frieza. So it's unfortunate that the Mecha Frieza is so overpowered, but there's I feel like shit, but there's just not a lot we can do about it right now.
Yeah.
You have to kind of buckle in and play things that either counters it or play it.
Yeah. Yeah, learn to play the game during this time. It's going to change. Every set that's come out, it's changed the game. And I believe earlier in the week they talked about the next draft pack that's coming out. They didn't tell you anything about it other than, I believe, the release date that's coming, I believe, mid-April. They didn't talk about leaders, but it's the same thing. New draft pack, 4 new leaders, you get whatever.
I totally missed that. I'm excited for that. Hopefully we get the Piccolo leader we all deserve.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure everyone just wants Piccolo leader at this point. I'm sick of Goku. If there's Goku, I'm going to be pissed. I don't want to see Goku as a leader anymore. Done with that guy.
Yeah, there's so many other characters.
I want my Chaozu leader. I'm waiting. I need a Raditz leader. I need all these guys. I'm sick of Goku. Hate his face. No, I'm just kidding.
You love the character. You hate that there's 12 leaders or whatever.
There's almost 2 set, right?
Yeah, there's too many.
Yeah, it's way too many.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I have for today.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thank you for having me. I love doing it.
Great. Thanks everyone for stopping by. If you're still here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to like and comment if we missed anything. If you think that we're wrong about something, let us know.
Let us know.
Yeah. Yeah, like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you for stopping by.
Have a good night.